Week 11 has arrived. Who should we start at the wide receiver position? Who should we sit? That's coming up next. Week 11 has arrived, and I hope everybody is in playoff mode. Let's get right to it. Wide receiver, well, one that we want to start, only 44% started. That's Brandon Cooks of the Houston Texans. And with Tyrod Taylor back, he has a lot more appeal to me. And I understand you're like, Tyrod Taylor? You're interested in a receiver of Tyrod Taylor? Well, yeah, dude. When Tyrod Taylor has been the quarterback for the Houston Texans in 2021, Brandon Cooks has an absurd 35 targets in 3 games with Taylor. I repeat, 35 targets in 3 games with Taylor. That is absurd amount of work for a wide receiver, and he has put up points with Taylor throwing him the ball. Now, we take into account the Tennessee has ceded 14 touchdowns to wide receivers in 2021. That's an appealing matchup. A lot of people think that Tennessee's getting it together. This defense is one that you want to avoid. I don't see it. To me, Tennessee is a team right now that is outscoring teams, that their defense is good enough to keep teams from scoring 35 points, but they're scoring points. So it is not a defense that I want to avoid. And right now, Brandon Cooks, with that target share, going up against a defense that has ceded 14 touchdowns to wide receivers in 2021, wide receivers averaging 46.1 PPR points against the Titans. It's kind of a juicy matchup. It's kind of making Brandon Cooks look pretty good. And more so in PPR, let's face it. This has to do more with the fact that he should get a lot of catches and a decent amount of yardage. I don't know about the touchdown, although I pretty damn good chance of getting a touchdown with the team that's, playing against a team that's given up 14 to the position in 10 weeks. So it's not as though this is a situation where you'd be like, well, he's going to get a lot of catches and a lot of yards, but should not expect a touchdown. Actually, in reality, you probably should. I would put it in the 66 to 70% range that Brandon Cooks will score a touchdown. And that's good chance. That's a really good opportunity for Brandon Cooks to notch up another touchdown and put it on his belt. And I just don't see why you would shy away from him with Tyrod Taylor back under center. Tyrod is always leaned on his number one guys. He's always favored a receiver. And so he's never been great for a receiving core, but he's been pretty good for receivers. When he had Sammy Watkins, guess what? That was basically Sammy Watkins' best time in fantasy. Was when he was with the Buffalo Bills and Tyrod Taylor. He just couldn't stay healthy early on in his career, and not that he can really stay healthy now, but he stays healthier now than he did earlier in his career. But the fact is, trying to get back on topic, is that Sammy Watkins was usable because Tyrod Taylor leaned on him, and he likes to lean on his number ones. And right now his number one is Brandon Cooks, and that's unquestioned. That is purely unquestioned. Nico Collins will get some, and the tight ends will get some, but the fact is Brandon Cooks is the game in town in the passing game for the Houston Texans, and Tyrod Taylor will lean on him. I expect a good week for Brandon Cooks. He is definitely a start for me heading into week 11. A guy that is moving into the put up or shut up. That's Amari Cooper, 79% started. And it's sad to see him in this segment, but the fact of the matter is Amari Cooper has an exploitable matchup. KC has ceded 13.3 yards per reception to wide receivers in the last 4 weeks, 11 touchdowns to wide receivers in 2021. And we're talking about one of the top passing games, or, with a top 5 quarterback in Dak Prescott and a guy in Amari Cooper who is an alpha dog, or, well, he was until CeeDee Lamb came to town. And the fact is Dallas is no longer that pass-happy team that we saw in 2020. They brought balance to the Dallas Cowboys. They brought the running game back to the Dallas Cowboys. And so Dak Prescott, no longer throwing the ball 50 times a game, has only, he's only thrown over 300 yards a couple times so far this season. He has not been as prolific as what we thought. He's been good for fantasy. He's been great for the Dallas Cowboys, but he's been terrible for Amari Cooper. Where are the targets? Last 3 games, 6 targets, 5 games with over the last 3 games. Okay, so take this back. He's got 3 games over 6 targets, 5 games with 5 targets or less. Where are the targets? That's 8 games. The other 2, I believe he's got double-digit targets, but 5 games with 5 targets or less, that's not good enough. That makes it very easy for Amari Cooper to bust, and guess what he's done a lot this year? He's busted. So a guy that right now needs to see more work to feel the trust to earn his role in the circle of trust, because right now, man, he's starting to get pushed out, man. He's on the outside of the circle of trust looking in, and he can get back in. And it can be pretty quickly if they will just throw him the fucking ball. But they refuse to. Only 3 games with 69 or more receiving yards in 2020. Jesus Christ, that's only 30% of the time this season. This guy has been over 69 yards. Need to see more from Cooper. Need to see more. It's a put up or shut up week for him. If not, this is a guy that you do have to start asking every single week if you want to put him in your lineup, period. Need to see the work. Not just the yards, not just the touchdowns, but you need to see the work. You need to see the targets. Because guess what? Michael Gallup came back, guys. The targets thinned out. The only one that might be usable in this passing game moving forward, like on a weekly basis, is CeeDee Lamb. This is a concern for Amari Cooper owners. Alert! Fucking alert! This is a red alert week for Amari Cooper. Just putting it out there. And I do want to make a quick reminder for you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. All of it goes a long way in growing the channel, and obviously I do want to grow the channel. I don't do this obviously for money. I keep putting out the content. I get a decent amount of views to make me happy, but the fact is I love helping people in fantasy, and this gives me a voice to do it. So I want to continue to bring more and more content for you guys, and I will continue to bring content in the off season, because that is how you win in fantasy, to not stop. There is no off season in fantasy. So with that said, let's go to some players in a position to succeed. Devonta Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles, 45% started. I've had this guy on my roster all year and have yet to deploy him. Guess who's in my flex this week? That's right. Finally deploying Devonta Smith. I do what I preach, guys. I do what I preach. If I say he's a start in my lineup most of the time, unless I just have that much depth to where I'm like, oh man, he might be a start, but look at all these other guys. But the fact is, Devonta Smith is in my lineup. I believe in him this week, back-to-back weeks with 22.6 PPR points. He's been absolutely awesome for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think a big part of that is that they are finally running the fucking ball. They gave up on this passing the ball like 75-80% of time bullshit that they were doing the first 5-6 weeks of the season, and they went to running the fucking ball. And that is so key for a passing game, especially when you have a young quarterback. And Jalen Hurts is a young quarterback who has weeks where he's inaccurate. And the best way to give a quarterback an opportunity to succeed who is young and has, a learning curve, is get your receivers open and give them easy throws. And when you are running the ball successfully, you can pass the ball successfully, and you can get wide receivers wide open off of things like the RPO and play action. And guess what they're doing in Philadelphia? Devonta Smith now bringing in contested catches. He is running elite routes, and he is starting to get touchdowns. This is the most explosive weapon that they have in the passing game and might be the most explosive weapon. We'll see what Miles Sanders does down the stretch or if they're going to continue to rotate running backs in that backfield. But the fact of the matter is, right now, in this offense, the most explosive weapon they have is Devonta Smith, and they should keep giving him the ball. He's been hyper efficient with his work this year. Since week 6, he's averaging 17 yards per reception. Since week 6, 17 yards per reception. I look at seasons as quarter season. I break it down into quarters. I look them at microcosms because we see trends. And the trend the last 4 weeks is this guy is putting big plays on the field. He's making big plays. And back-to-back weeks with 22.6 points is hard to ignore in PPR. Now, this is more of a PPR thing than a standard. However, it's not as if this guy gets 9, 10, targets every week. He has been getting more of like the 6 to 7 targets every week. So he is decent in standard as well. He's been finding the end zone. Hurst is looking for him. This passing game has improved. The offense is improved, and this is a guy heading into week 11 in a position to succeed. And like I said, he's in the lineup for the first time this year, and I'm excited to see what it does. It's probably not going to be the 22-6 he's done the last 2 weeks, but I'm hoping, we get another 16, 18 points out of Devonta Smith in week 11. A guy that it's not your week. Tyler Lockett, 67% started, and Arizona has done very well against number 1 receivers. So if there is a week that Tyler Lockett is going to do well, I guess it is against Arizona because he's not the number 1. That's DK's role. However, he's just not a guy, speaking of the circle of trust, that is anywhere near it right now. There's only one startable receiver, in my opinion, in Seattle at the moment, and that's DK. When I look at Tyler Lockett, 67% started in week 11, I see a guy that is a flex. He's not a wide receiver 2. He's, to me, a low-end wide receiver 3 that obviously can deliver wide receiver 1 numbers, however, has not done that much, and he's doing exactly what he does in his career. He busts most weeks, and he goes the fuck off in a handful of weeks throughout the entire season. And you'll pull your hair out trying to figure out when it is. And he'll have so many bad weeks in a row, you'll finally take him out of your lineup, and that's going to be the week that he goes the fuck off. But the thing is, you got to take him out of your lineup to go the fuck off. And it's fucking frustrating. Tyler Lockett is fucking frustrating, and it's unfortunate, but it's true. And he's a guy that has, he scored more than 7.1 PPR points just 4 times this season. Well, let you think on that for 1 second. I will repeat. Scored more than 7.1 PPR points just 4 times this season. How low of a benchmark did I have to make to get to the 4 mark? 7.1 PPR points? And people still look at this guy as a fucking wide receiver too? No. No. This guy's a fucking flex. He's one of the most frustrating fucking flexes out there because he will at some point go the fuck off for like 130 yards and 2 touchdowns and like 8 receptions. And you're going to be like, where the fuck that come from? But that is what Tyler Lockett does. And that is what makes him frustrating. And to me, that's why he's a guy that I'm a trust guy, man. I'd rather have Deontay Johnson in my lineup, who is like the 22nd or 24th wide receiver in PPR this year, but every week scores double-digit points. What's that mean? He doesn't go the fuck off very much. Like, he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, but he catches a lot of fucking balls, and he has a very safe floor. And I love guys with safe floors, and I fucking hate Tyler Lockett in fantasy. You get the picture. A guy that you should beware in week 11, well, that's going to Mike Williams. Let's face it, Mike Williams averaging 5.9 PPR points in his last 4 games. How do you do that in PPR? How are you so bad at the wide receiver position as a starting wide receiver in the NFL and average 5.9 PPR points? That's terrible. That is terrible. So for a quarter of the season, this guy has been averaging less than 6 points a game. And it's been the last quarter of the season. This is a guy you really want in your lineup. You really feel good about having in your lineup. 57% people think he's a good start in week 11. Jesus Christ, go pick up Christian Kirk. He's going to start. No DeAndre Hopkins. I think Kyler Murray's going this week. He's still been good even if Kyler Murray hasn't been there. Go get Christian Kirk. He's been much better than Mike Williams the last 4 weeks. He's only got 1 true bust. He's only got 2 games under 10 PPR points. Still widely available out there. Much better play right now than Mike Williams. That's what I'm talking about, dude. A guy that's averaging under 6 targets since week 6. This is a good week to deploy mid-range wide receivers. Why are we dicking around with Mike Williams? Why the fuck is this guy in your lineup? Why do you have him in your circle of trust? To me, he's a guy that's riding pine until I can see him be healthy and playing good football again. Because since basically week 5, he hasn't been healthy and he hasn't been playing good football. He's been downright fucking terrible. And he's in 57% of lineups, and that to me is fucking frustrating. Beware this guy. Beware a guy that has a shitty fucking floor. With that said, I would like to thank you for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any start-sit questions, I join Mike Lynch and Rashad Taylor on 1080 The Fan here in Portland, Oregon on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. We take start-sit questions for the half hour leading up to kickoff. So those last-minute start-sit questions, we can get those answered for you. You text them into 503-250-1080, and you can listen live on Odyssey.com. I will have the link down in the description below, or you can just go to the Odyssey app and search 1080 The Fan. Again, thank you for watching, and make sure you watch my Week 11 running back start sits as well.